Hey everyone, how's it going? As I've been saying in the past few videos, we are continuing Blacksad with A Silent Hell, the fourth story and second book of the series. If you're new to the channel and don't know the history of the series and the character, there's a link in the description down below that will send you to past reviews where I go deeper into the character and his stories. Abridged version, the series focuses on the adventures of a cat detective by the name of John Blacksad in the 1950s and the cultures of the time. For this story, we see Blacksad dive deep into the cold waters of hot jazz and voodoo in New Orleans, which will lead to probably his most mind-bending adventure yet. How? Well, let's get started. Warning, spoilers. Our story opens with John and Weekly at a gentleman's club waiting for a man by the name of Junior Harper, a blues musician who's been out of the scene for a while. Weekly, being a reporter, was tasked to cover the blues scene in New Orleans and decided to bring Blacksad, which means Weekly can cover more ground and John can get some money on the side. That doesn't involve him dealing with a pissed off rooster. Well, okay, that's kind of a lie because Junior Harper is a rooster and he's pretty pissed off, but unlike Gallows in the last story, he has a legit reason to be pissed. Weekly meets with one of the heads of a local label, a Mr. Faust Lapel, in a state penitentiary of all places, with most of the inmates actually being clients of his. This is where Weekly would find Harper, and immediately make it clear that Faust is not on the up and up. Faust, annoyed, leaves, with Weekly following him, while Harper makes it clear that once he makes parole, he plans to talk to him in private. Well, mystery solved. Short but sweet. Like, share, subscribe. Later. Of course, there's more to the story. After leaving, Faust falls ill, and Weekly helps him get to the home of Madame Gibraltar, a voodoo practitioner who's been assisting him with his health after his doctors diagnosed him with cancer. He knows he probably won't last any longer, so he hires Blacksad, who Weekly called when they arrived, to help tie up some loose ends. What would that be? Finding another jazz musician, a man by the name of Sebastian Little Hands Fletcher, who Blacksad actually is a big fan of. So of course, with that and some extra cash, Blacksad takes the case. Though it already gets complicated as they discover there is another detective on the case, a hippo. Man, Hip Flask from the Elephant Man really let himself go. Actually, his name is Ted Lehman, and he is, kind of a dick, and not the investigating kind. Elsewhere, we see Sebastian as he reunites with his pregnant wife, Hannah, which at first comes off as a happy reunion, as it looks like she'll be able to talk him into coming home. But when she invokes the name of Faust, he snaps at her, and tries to convince him that he just wants to help, but Sebastian has none of it, and leaves. As Blacksad searches for Sebastian, he would meet with both Big Bill Lenore, an old buddy of Sebastian who seems to be on hard times, though still being pretty optimistic, Thomas Lapel, Faust's son, and a very close friend with Hannah, who seems like he means well, but for some reason he's trying to talk Blacksad into dropping the case. Why? Will John and Weekly be able to save Sebastian from himself or anyone else? I've said it many times before, but you're gonna have to read to find out. Canales and Granindo proves that the first three stories were not a fluke, and they know what they're doing. They once again did the research on New Orleans culture and the history, good or bad, and never sugarcoat any of it. In fact, this book was actually pretty educational for me since while working on this review, I myself had to do some research to see how much of the facts they were telling were true, like when mentioning the historical people like Marie Laveau, when introducing us to Madame Gibraltar. This is also probably the most visual creative story so far. I'll talk more about it when it comes to the art, but it really helps emphasize the loosening grip of sanity for both Sebastian and Blacksad as they go deeper into the case. The case itself is pretty fun as well, since it kind of evolves as the story goes on. From John just helping Weekly out with his job, to him chasing a guy dressed up as Death in the middle of a Mardi Gras parade, while Weekly is trying to get lucky with a skunk girl. Never change, Weekly. Point being, the case has an interesting change of pace, and much like most of the characters, keep you on your toes as you're reading. Now let's move on to characters. Blacksad in this story is probably at his most calm. Sure, we've seen him loosen up time and again, but up until the halfway point of this story, he's really got it together. Probably because unlike the first three cases, his case here didn't start out as intense. I mean, even in Red Soul, John had to start out as a bodyguard slash muscle for a rich client, which though wasn't that intense, it was kind of uncomfortable for him. Here, however, yeah, he has some time to get to feel the situation and seems to be able to figure things out a bit sooner, really showing showing off his skills as a detective. Even when things do get more intense, he still seems to be able to pick up the pieces, though he's not totally in control of the situation. Luckily, he does get help from his buddy Weekly, who kind of goes full Jaskier from The Witcher in here, where he's, though being helpful in most parts, Canal seems to really want Weekly to be the comedic character in here, even more than he was in the Arctic Nation. But luckily, he's able to balance Weekly's comedic moments with the more serious stuff that John's going through. He's a good comic relief, but I do feel like he could have helped John out in a more meaningful way, instead of him striking out with the ladies. Next, we're going to talk about the father and son duo of Faust and Thomas Lepel. Well, calling them a duo might be a poor choice of words, since the two don't actually see eye to eye. However, they seem to have a lot in common, as they both are men who are first introduced to be pretty kind and helpful. Faust seems to be really deeply in love with Jazz, and despite being rich, seems to be humble around Blacksad and Weekly, especially as he struggles with his declining health. Thomas is first seen helping Hannah, giving birth to her and Sebastian's son, and truly seems to care about her, maybe even love her. Unfortunately, we also see that the two are clearly hiding skeletons in the closet, as we of course have people bringing up how Faust is two-faced, and without spoiling it, yeah, they're not totally exaggerating, and you can kind of get why they would hate him. As for Thomas, we definitely get a quick idea of his motivations and how they might be selfish. But unlike his father, it's not all black and white. Hell, even though Blacksad doesn't trust him in the beginning, he even starts to question if there's even more to Thomas. Next, we have Sebastian's poor wife, Hannah, who definitely is a tragic figure. She's a woman in her own private hell, caused by the case, and unfortunately, she can't seem to figure out why. She does have a few ideas that do help with the case, but unfortunately, she's left in a fragile state, and you feel bad for her throughout. Much like Alma in the last story, I kinda wish she was more than the damsel in distress kind of character, but given the fact she's mostly recovering from giving birth, I get it really wouldn't make sense. Finally, we'll talk about the tragic figure, the man people are looking for, Sebastian Little Hands Fletcher. And dear God, this guy's story is tragic. I mean, I already said that Hannah's life is pretty bad, but oh boy, the stuff that her husband has to go through to keep her out of it, wow. I mean, it's not like One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest levels of tragic, but it's pretty damn close. This man is just in pain, suffering from desperation from his vices, keeping him away from what he truly wants in his life, his family together. He just wants his life back, his love, and to play music again. Unfortunately, due to the events that has unfortunately put him in this situation, he's forced himself to wallow in desperation, misery, and twisted visions. We even get flashbacks to before he ended up like this, and it does show that he was once a caring, free man with love in his heart. And yeah, you really want him to be able to get out of this hell. There's of course other characters I could discuss, like the other musicians, Madame Gibraltar and Ted Lehman, but that could lead to some spoilers, or in the case of Madame Gibraltar, not much to say. Yeah, despite her assisting Faust with his health and how he built her up, she doesn't actually say much to really get an idea of her character. And once again, we return to the amazing art of Granindo. As I mentioned before, this is probably the most visually creative from the rest of the series. From the design of the death costume, from the Mardi Gras parade, which seriously, he brings his A game. I mean, it's Mardi Gras, so yeah, you gotta go big and go home, but he knocked it out of the park. Then there's the visions. Wow. I got some serious Feladay vibe from it, and it is awesome. Once more, Blacksad refused to disappoint me, and once more, I must recommend it if you are looking for a good mystery. Is it flawed? Yeah, it is. I definitely think that Canales could do more with his female characters, but still, the stuff that he has the characters go through are still not bad and very well written. And as I mentioned before, I do think we could do more with some characters, but yeah, again, this is a series you definitely need to read. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and next time we're going to go continue the themes of Secrets, where we're going to go back an extra decade to WW2 and see a secret truth of the Marvel Universe. Later.